Today we're venturing into the architectural evolution happening on Manhattan's Lower East Side.
Yeah, we're looking specifically at the new museum's, well, pretty ambitious expansion.
And our main source for this is a really interesting piece from New York YMBY. It's dated May 5th, 2025.
Right, and it catches the project just as they're starting the facade installation, so a key moment.
Exactly. And what we want to do today is really sort of dissect this whole thing, look at the key design features of this new part, how it sits next to the original museum.
And what it all means, really, for the museum itself and, I guess, for the neighborhood, too.
We're aiming to give you a clear, concise rundown of this development.
Yeah, pull out the important details, give some context so you can really get a handle on it without, reading pages and pages of plans.
Okay, let's dive in then. The location is 231 Bowery. That's right at the corner of Bowery and Prince Street.
And the expansion itself is this 7-story annex, going up about, 174 feet tall?
Yeah, and it's right next door, just south of the original building, the SANAA one from 2007.
And the scale here is, well, it's pretty striking. The article says it's going to more than double the museum's footprint.
Doubling it, yeah. From around 55,000 square feet.
Up to 115,000 square feet total. It mentions a 60,000 square foot addition, which makes up that difference. That's a huge increase in space. Shows real commitment.
It really does. And the design team, it's not just anyone. We've got OMA, Rem Koolhaas, and Shohei Shigematsu.
And Cooper Robertson, partners working with him. That's, a serious lineup. OMA, especially, you kind of know you're going to get something different.
Definitely known for pushing boundaries, aren't they?
That's right. They often do these very bold conceptual designs. So maybe it's not a huge surprise that the look of this annex, just the facade going up, is already getting people talking.
Which we'll get to, for sure. But first, physically, where are things at? The YMBY piece says facade installation is underway now.
So the outer skin is starting to appear. We're seeing what it'll actually look like.
And the materials, the article specifies 4 different kinds of corrugated metal panels.
And also ACM panels on the north and south sides.
Right. ACM being aluminum composite material, often used for those really smooth surfaces. And PG New York is doing the fabrication and install.
So if you think about those materials and the description of it as a sleek, angular volume.
Yeah.
It really points towards a deliberate contrast with the original SANAA building.
Oh, completely. The stacked boxes, right. That sort of floaty look. Very different feel.
Exactly. And the contrast seems to go deeper. The annex facade is using laminated glass and this metal mesh, which is quite different from the main building's kind of solid metal skin. It feels like they're setting up a conversation, maybe, between the old and new.
Yeah, like a visual back and forth. It raises that classic question, doesn't it, when you add to an iconic building?
Do you blend in or do you stand out?
Right. And OMC seems to be going for standout here.
Definitely looks that way. And speaking of standing out, the roof's got some interesting things going on, too.
Yes, the triangular cutouts they mentioned. 3 are terraces.
Yeah, which you imagine will be pretty great spaces up there. Views over the LES.
And the 4th one is clever. It's a skylight.
Right, positioned to light up the new gallery space below. Smart use of form, really.
Thinking about the inside then, 3 new gallery floors.
And interestingly, the article notes the ceiling heights will actually match the existing SANAA galleries.
Oh, that's a subtle but important detail. For flow, I guess.
Yeah, suggests they're thinking about the visitor experience moving between the 2 parts. Should feel pretty seamless. Maybe opens up curatorial options, too.
And it's not just galleries. They're adding other key things, too. Like an 80-seat restaurant.
Which is needed, probably. And a bigger bookstore.
Always a plus. And more office space for the staff, which they likely need with this expansion.
There's also talk of a tall atrium with a staircase wrapping around this abstract multi-story geometric volume. Sounds quite dramatic.
Yeah, visually striking, you'd imagine. A central point.
And you can picture the light playing in a space like that.
And for the artists themselves, dedicated residency studios are included.
Which is great. Reinforces that commitment to actually making art, not just showing it.
Plus, an upper-level forum space.
Right.
For education, public programs, and it connects to the existing Sky Room.
Oh, good. So creating that link between the spaces for events and things.
And new WINC, the museum's incubator.
Right. They get their own dedicated space in the annex now. That's big for them. Probably helps foster more collaboration.
Definitely. And just for getting around, the lobby's getting expanded, 3 new elevators.
And 2 of those are just for gallery access, apparently. That should really help with crowds, moving people up and down.
I think one of the really exciting bits, for the public anyway, is the new public plaza.
Yeah, the article mentions it'll be for art installations, performances, just a place to gather.
That could really activate that corner, make it a destination, a nice addition to the streetscape there.
And connecting the buildings, physically it's a lateral connection. They actually took out part of the original building's south wall for this.
So it's truly integrated, not just stuck on the side.
Exactly. Emphasizes it's one complex now.
And getting there sounds pretty easy. Subway access nearby?
Yep, the F train at 2nd Ave, the 6 at Spring Street, and the J and Z at Bowery are all close. So pretty accessible.
Okay, so timeline. Based on this May 2025 article.
They're expecting to reopen with the new addition all done sometime next year, so 2026.
Not too far off then. We'll get to see it relatively soon.
Yeah. Which leads us nicely into, what are people saying now?
Ah, the initial reactions. Always interesting. The YMBY article had comments.
And let's just say opinions are varied.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah. So one person, Monath, raised that classic point.
Sure.
Is the building itself going to overshadow the art inside?
A fair question for striking museum designs. Where's the balance?
Then you have someone like Scott Preston, who was more positive, liked the visible steel details, appreciated seeing the structure.
Okay, but
Right. Then you get the sharper critiques. Several commenters, Aesthetics Joe, Akaboken, Richard F.X. Johnson, they weren't holding back.
what do they say?
Phrases like dead modernism. And the comparison that kept popping up was the Cybertruck.
Elon Musk's Cybertruck. Wow. Okay, not usually a compliment in architectural circles, I'd guess.
Probably not, no. Richard F.X. Johnson called it the architectural equivalent of the Cybertruck, and just as awful. So pretty strong feelings there. They found it unattractive, didn't think it fit in.
That Cybertruck thing really suggests like a coldness, maybe soullessness.
Something like that, yeah. A feeling that it's jarring or just doesn't belong?
But it wasn't all negative.
No, not entirely. There was a commenter, Citicritter, who actually saw the Cybertruck comparison too, but took a different angle.
How so?
They actually praised parts of the design strategy, like how people move vertically through the building, the facade's connection to the street. They seemed to appreciate the thinking behind it.
But they weren't fully sold.
They mentioned wanting to wait and see the final window pattern before making a final call. So more of a nuanced take.
And then there was some sarcasm.
Yeah, a commenter named Mark just put basically, wow, these two buildings really complement each other, followed by Stella Ganese for sarcasm. Clearly didn't think they worked well together visually.
Right. And finally,
A comment from Drew Diaz that took a step back, called the whole thing a vanity project.
oh,
Yeah, suggesting the money could have been spent on something more, quote, useful, like housing, which brings in that bigger debate about, institutional priorities in a city.
so pulling it all together, we've got this major expansion, doubling the museum size, designed by a huge name in architecture, lots of new facilities.
But the design itself, this very angular contrasting form,
Yeah.
it's definitely polarizing people right from the start, even just based on renderings and construction photos.
The contrast seems to be the key point of contention.
Absolutely. Is it a bold statement, a dialogue, or is it just jarring and disconnected? People clearly fall into different camps on that. It really highlights how subjective architecture is, right?
For sure. So, to sum up, the new museum is getting a massive boost with this 7-story annex. More than double the space, new galleries, restaurant, plaza, the works.
Designed by OMA, it's got this sleek, angular look that's a world away from the original SANAA building's stacked boxes, a very intentional contrast.
And as we heard from those early comments, this bold move is already sparking a lot of debate. Aesthetics, how it fits the museum's purpose, its place on the Lower East Side, it's all being discussed.
Which leads to a good question for you, listening.
Yeah, considering these strong mixed reactions, how should museum expansion relate visually to what's already there and to the art it holds?
Does that kind of bold contrast add something exciting, or does it just, distract, create visual noise?
It's definitely worth thinking about. We'd say go look up the renderings, see the photos of the construction, and form your own opinion on this new piece of the New York cityscape. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.